Welcome to the Superhero Sanctum. We haven't been here in a while. I am your host, Daniel Faust. The Superhero Sanctum goes over and takes wisdom and brings it to you, the military veteran and first responder, to go over and to thrive and not just to go over and survive. Today on our show, we have Yasmin George, and if I hack her name, she's going to tell me afterwards. She's going to take your business from chaos to control, because when we get out of the service, it's just nuts. We think everything is fine, and in about 3 to 6 months, we typically get in the chaos mode, or we leave our first job, or we want to start a business and we are struggling. I know I'm tired of the chaos. So Yasmin's going to bring the control. She's going to help us to simplify, streamline, and scale. And then she's going to help us empower our biz to get to autopilot. I wish I was at autopilot right now. So I'm going to gain some wisdom too. And we're going to bring her to the stage. Yasmin, do we have you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Daniel.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to get all this wisdom and my business is going to be on autopilot. We're going to be huge and I'm going to be on stages next week, right? Is that too fast?
You can, with one caveat, you simplify. And that's always the hardest with entrepreneurs. We've got so many ideas, we're visionaries, we want to do it all. And then that's where the chaos happens.
So that's the fault. So my ADHD autistic mind just needs a rewiring, it sounds like. All right. So we're going to get into that in a moment, but we're going to go back to the past. You're going to share with us how you became a part of our community, how we connected overall.
Yeah, I was a active duty military spouse. And, I've always had an affinity towards those who serve the community. I was part of a disaster relief team of the Red Cross for like a decade. Before that, I worked a lot with, our first responders, and just anything with trying to alleviate human suffering. And, as I joined the military community, I just saw a very different type of ethos in the people that served, whatever the reasons were that they went in to serve. But, they're very mission driven and focused. And then when getting out, obviously transitions are tough, not just obviously for the service member, definitely for the service member, but also for families trying to adjust, get back into the civilian world. Things change, there's a lot of moving around. Your old family and friends, for example, or not old, but family and friends, everything just seems different because you have a different worldview. And when we had gotten out, for me, I wanted to do something different, and that's when I started my own business. And I discovered Bunker Labs, which is for veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs. And, it just felt like home. It didn't matter, what your status was in the military, your rank, or anything of that nature. We were all on an even playing field trying to figure out this chaotic world of business. And so that's kind of how I started with the community, more so when with the veteran post-service community. And as well, I am on the board of a military nonprofit, Act Now Education, one of the fastest growing military nonprofits out there, helping a lot of our service members, veterans, and military spouses and dependents get upskill and reskill, career opportunities and education opportunities. So I just kind of got more embedded into the community, more so than when we were active duty. So, and just the people, there's something different. It's a very, what can I do to serve you? What can I do to help you first mentality versus, what can you do for me? And so I just gravitated towards that immediately.
Man, we got a 2-for-1 special on those questions. That's why I popped on the slides. It was beautiful. It was like a seamless transition. I didn't even have to ask the question. So, and that is beautiful that you go over and still do that, because once you leave our community, you don't have to. It's the same thing. Like as veterans, we could leave the community and go blend back in, and so does the mil spouses. I think the mil spouses have multiple identity crises, because you come in and you're either getting married into it, and then you're growing into it, and then you PCS, and then you have to go. And then as we have kids and families and everything else, and then you now finally settle, and you're like, I could be behind the power curve 5, 10, 15 years. I've had to sacrifice, or jobs I couldn't get, or businesses that I couldn't go and pursue. So I'm glad that you are helping our community bridge that gap, because it's just huge. And the thing is, the mil spouse can sometimes bring more power to the entire family. I'm waiting for my sugar mama to go make some money too. So I would love to go over and leave myself. So Actually, that's what we decided. I've been staying in so we can get our business overall ran, and then once it's big enough, then I can pull chalks and join full time. So I'm thankful for your service. So let's go into a typical day, because that was just a lot to go over and process that transformation. But now let's bring it to a level that we can conceptualize and understand. So what does a typical day look like for you for serving your community, and how your business looks like to the world?
I mean, I think for me, like any entrepreneur, it's tough. It doesn't matter, what your prior background was, right? I've worked in a lot of startup companies for other people, thinking, okay, well, I have more experience understanding what it is to start from the ground up, raising the money, millions of dollars, and then it all just tanking after a couple of years. And so, no matter what your experience is, every time you start something new, it's almost like you're starting over. There's more knowledge, but especially in the past 5 years, so many things have changed. Even the past decade, with the access to the internet, direct access to your consumers, trends, marketing, sales, all of that. So, I think for me, it was, well, obviously the community of the veteran military spouse entrepreneurs, wanting to help them, but I always wanted to help small business owners because I believe we are the backbone to this country, and marketing was one of the things that they didn't understand. So I wanted to be able to empower them, teach them how to fish so that they can have more control of their business and so they would succeed. Because we know the stats for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's, after the first year, second year, and then fifth year, it's, 50% decline every single time. And so, and I do believe entrepreneurs are there to change the world. So that's kind of how I started.
Yeah, so that's in the starting part. Let's get into more of like what your day is like on Monday or Wednesday or Friday with your clients in that particular regard. It's like, how would I know what that kind of looks like so I can see on how you go over and would serve me, for example?
Oh, I see. Okay. So, well, I mean, it can get chaotic. So I try to batch my days into what I do. So whether it's back end operations, customer support, sales. So team meetings on Mondays is when I typically like to have them, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. And then we have our marching orders during the week. And then in between, I have client meetings, and then just kind of back end processes. I would love to structure a little bit more, with just having one day is just, let's say, accounting and operations, another day sales calls. But at the same time, I want to be able to cater to my customers when I can. So I do try to batch it a bit and keep some time for myself in the mornings. Every day is slightly different, but I do try to structure it so I also build in time for myself so I can think, strategize, and also execute on things that I need to do.
Would you say that's the main thing that you probably learned as you're developing the biz, and what the typical day looks like, is that we used to multitask? That was the 90s things. And us men already knew we could only monotask. And now we realize the rest of the world can monotask. So another word would be like, you're batching your day is helping you to take from that chaos and bring back control.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's like time blocking on your calendar. So I have caving sessions with one of my business partners, just so we can think through what do we need to do, from a marketing promotional side of things, even back end, from the business model, and that entrepreneurship. There's always things getting thrown at you, on a daily basis, and so even when you try to create that structure, we tend to have shiny object syndrome, right? And we're chasing multiple rabbits here. And so we have to be able to say no and get good at saying no. And that takes time. And so with that, when you time block, it makes things a lot easier. Also, just for me, I try to simplify, remove as much as I can, automate where I can, and then delegate things out. So yeah, I would say create that structure. And if it somehow gets messed up, that's okay. You just kind of get back on the horse and you try to create that restructure again so that you can block things out. Otherwise, it's hard to get things done or get that momentum. And it's all about planning too. The further ahead you can plan, the better.
Yeah, I've seen that. And when you read about studies and maximizing time, if the phone rings, a text message, an alert on a computer, and everything else, it takes us an average 17 minutes to get back on focus. And then if you had a person like me with ADHD and autistic, it'd take us 17 hours to get back on task. And you're like, what happened with the entire day?
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even get anything done in that. So let's share about a
Actually, can I share
testimony.
one quick thing?
Yeah,
One
sure.
other thing that is helpful for me that I found is putting my phone on silent when I need that time for myself or I'm doing one type of task with the team member or whatnot, because the pings, I'm constantly getting pinged, whether it's from, my employees or for clients or just family, friends, whatever it is. So put that phone on silent just for a period of time, unless you want to keep it on just for emergency calls. But that was a huge hack for me that's helped.
Yeah, so for our IT people and folks, I can show real quick. Well, I won't show it on the screen, but when you go into your iPhone, there's actually a focus mode. If you actually flip up and go in there, you'll see a focus mode on there. And you can actually put a focus mode on there. You can choose do not disturb, personal, walk, sleep, and driving. And you only want to tell your real friends that need to get through emergency if they call twice in a 3-minute succession. It will break the do not disturb. And you can also put those hot people that you need to have go through your phone. And all the alerts go away too. So if I hit do not disturb on my phone, and this would be a Droid too, but I don't know where to do it on the Droid side because I'm an Apple guy at heart. But I'll just show you real quick. All the alerts go away. So all the red goes away and everything else for the person. So I was just thinking about that. That if you get even distracted looking at your phone, you can even put it in that do not disturb mode so you have no visual. I do the audio off, I shut up the vibrate, I shut off everything. That's helped out with me in that particular regard. So
I didn't know about the three rings.
yeah, it's 2 rings in a 3-minute succession. That's how
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yeah, so you only want to tell your people, or you put your list in there, like the people that can break it, like your spouse, your kid, and that type of thing. But the sad part is still my spouse and my kid will go over and call all my kids, and I'm like, he's like, "Dad," I'm like, you could have sent a text. That's how I reach. I'm like, I said you could have sent a text, and then when I'm in person, then he's kind of like oversharing, and I'm like, well, I need you to do that in person, not on the phone. So
Yeah.
that's at least helped me, but I wanted to at least give some IT tips because that's my prior background. So that's definitely helpful. And if you have Teams, you can go put a do not disturb on there too, org boxes, things of that nature. Those things are huge. And once you start doing that, it really helps. But again, with me being autistic, I can be singular focused and say, this is what I'm doing. And then they think I'm a prick, but it gets work done.
Yeah. It's just a lot of times it's the basics we have to go back to: scheduling, time blocking, how to focus. And a short answer to answer your question.
Yeah. So what about a testimony? Would love to hear a testimony from one of your clients if you're allowed to share. You don't have to give their name and everything, but I would love to hear a great testimony to see how to take that scaling. Who's the person that's made 6 or 7 figure that now I want to go follow to go break? Obviously, I'm going to follow you, but I want to see if you have another example. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So I have numerous clients, when you're at that 6 and 7 figure range, there's a lot of chaos. I think there's chaos throughout, but particularly at that point, because a lot of times you hustle to that level. And so I've had a client that's been pretty successful for a while, but they were just all over the place with different systems and they needed to streamline their marketing. And so they came to me, it's like, hey, I need to shorten my sales cycle, and I just need to have everything all in one. And so I do what I call customer journey mapping. What's the entire, from the time a lead comes in all the way through to the onboarding side of it. And essentially, I streamlined and automated about 80% of their manual tasks. That freed up their time, because what most CEOs need is like, I just need time to work on my business instead of in it. And even if you have employees, there's a lot to manage there too. And what if your employees can have majority of their tasks automated so that they can manage the entire business, or they're part of the business, so they can focus on other things that would also help save costs for the client. So anyway, in that sense, I had done that about 75 to 80% for their team, and just naturally they grew 20 to 25% within a few months just by plugging in these leaks. And then from there, I taught them, other hacks and tricks that work well in terms of, let's say, email marketing. So investing a couple $100 in email marketing, for example, and then they made about 13K, right? Just from that one tactic, cash injection. So really what my goal is to teach entrepreneurs, change your mindset of how they can do things differently to work smarter, not harder. And then they naturally take it from there and grow. So I focus more on the systems and the strategy of it. And then they take it because now they know what to do and how to do it. And now they can apply different campaigns and marketing and sales tactics to help them grow to that next level.
And I think that's a lot of us that go to the Veterans Social Summit, the Military Influencer Conference. We're wanting to get to that point that we can have a balanced schedule. We can maximize using our talent, not going over and doing something. I think of my military job right now. I'm like, there's so many things I wish that was automated. My coworker gets pissed. I said, we could replace all 13,500 of us across the total thing if we just automated the dang sucker compared to going over. I'm like, I'm investing 15 minutes running a specific type of paperwork to then go file it in a location and everything else. And then to say that the person did X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I used to use macros in the 2000s. Why am I in 2025 still manually doing something in a system? So I think we all need that structure, and that's a beautiful thing. Now let's go into the tough times. I know this might be a sticker shocker, but I like to go dive in from the highs and the lows and everything else. But what keeps you going in the tough times? Because you can be 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure. We all have tough days. It's not like we get our pants on and all the tough days go away because we have more money. So how do you keep going in the tough times?
I think there's a couple of things that keep me going. It's really understanding your purpose and your why. And I say that loosely because a lot of times when we start on this journey of entrepreneurship, we have this obviously a dream, we have a desire to whether work for ourselves, make more money, or do the thing that we're really good at and share it with the world to make their lives better. And obviously, entrepreneurship there's definitely highs and lows. All right, if you don't have those lows, I don't know if you're doing it right. But and when you're going into it, sometimes we don't know what the purpose is at the highest level. We start off at a certain milestone, but when it gets hard, sometimes we question. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And you just have to have that little ember of belief in yourself that there's more to your calling. And I do believe every single human being on this planet has a calling, but we all don't answer that call. And when you particularly in entrepreneurship, you are answering that call. There's something more to it. It's meant to stretch you, meant to grow you. And I do believe God puts that purpose in us, and we just have to hear his calling and trust that he's going to guide us through it. And that's hard to do. So for me, it's kind of looking up and going inward as well to figure out, okay, I don't fully understand it because this is hard and I want to quit a lot of times, but there's more to it. And it's just being still. So I think for me, that's kind of what it is just understanding there's more beyond what I'm thinking, and just going towards that.
I think that's huge. I was reading the sign behind you the entire time you were talking because you went Christianese on me, and I much appreciate it because we do from the prayer room to the boardroom, and it
Yeah.
says in everything give thanks. I think it's First Thessalonians 5:18, and I'm trying to read it now smaller.
Yeah, sure.
But I think that's huge about that because if we don't look at it as a true purpose, a true calling. A good Christian book for our audience is Chazown, Chazown, by Craig Grosham. I'm probably hacking his last name because it's heavily German. And then if you want a secular book, it's Start Your Why, Find Your Why by Simon Sinek. When
Hmm.
we understand that, I think that really helps with the hard times when we know the source of that calling, the source of that entrepreneurial bug and that burden that we have. So I'm glad that you visited on that because a lot of the times the military mentality be like, I just pull myself by my bootstraps and I keep on going. If you eventually pull yourself by your bootstraps, they snap and you fall down. Unless you're like have absolute awesome balance, which I don't. I'm flat footed, so I would technically fall over. So I thought that was beautiful to go over and say, hey, we need to look at the bigger picture and when we want to give up because our flesh is weak and only because of his spirit we are strong. So I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, and I love the from the Christian angle, the parable of the talents, right? When the Lord gave three people talents, one, two, and three, respectively, and the ones that had the three and the five, they went and multiplied their talents. One with the one kept it for himself, and so with with us as entrepreneurs, we are obviously, I think we're all given talents, but the entrepreneurs go and take and do something with it. At least they're trying to. And so it is our duty, as if we serve the Lord, to be able to spread those talents to better humanity and better serve Him. So,
Awesome. Now let's get into some tactics because we usually don't have a lot of time. We're in a doom scrolling world. I'm like, I had to cut myself off. I realized yesterday during Bible study, I'm like, ooh, I'm doing a lot of hours. I need to cut this down. But we averagely scroll 7 hours a day. So we might only interact with that client in a certain tactic. So if you had to either give a 1 minute reel or you were with a client for maybe 90 seconds or just like three things before they get on the plane, or even think of yourself and say, hey, I wish I known this of 20 years ago. And I wish I came back in a time machine and be like, hey, learn these three things so you can go over and thrive. What would you say either to yourself or to a client?
oh, three superhero tactics. I don't know if it's superhero, they're more strategic, but simplify, focus on one thing. And you're talking about in business, right? How to thrive in business, or more for yourself personally?
Well, purposely from like if you're coaching a client, it would be business. So you would decide on, hey, that elevator ride or escalator ride is for you. So if that's what they're asking, you can deliver it any way you want. We don't control how you answer the question.
Yeah. So superhero tactics. I'd probably say first, yeah, I would probably say try to simplify your life. It helps in personally and in business. It helps you move faster. I would probably also say focus on your growth. Move like a lot of times we get down, so just like little hacks like movement helps with your energy. Try to keep your energy up and know that everything that you're doing is in growth. So I'm trying to think of specific tactics that I do. I have different strategies that help with it, but I'd probably say, yeah, like when you simplify, I would definitely go into automation, try to like automate and delegate out. That helps free up your time. Um, and then, yeah, simplifying, make sure you have whatever it is that you're focused on your goal, that you start with the end in mind and then work backwards. This is something I tell my clients a lot because it's so easy to get through, into the hustle of entrepreneurship. So if your goal is to make more money, then make sure you have a good profit margin take home. If your goal is to have more time, make sure you have time built into how you build out your schedule and how you serve your clients and fulfillment. So kind of threw a few things in there. Um,
And I think that goes over and works well because a
yeah,
lot of those things we skip as society. We don't want to simplify things. I think of my workflow. I've been trying to go over and say, let's do this, or not add these items in that particular. That's huge because when we are in the military, we make it more complicated. In the first responder world, we make it more complicated also because we have this bureaucracy we have to go and follow. So I think we as veterans and mil spouses and our entire families need to have that understanding. So I thought that was beautiful. I know you were a little confused, but I'm like, hey, I'd rather get the golden nuggets than to force the question. So, but our
yeah,
audience question, you're going to have to answer without no knowledge at all. So this is our
sure.
last one for the day. All right. This one might even be harder than the tough times one. So let's bring it. Audience question. What is the hardest thing you ever had to do and what has been your greatest accomplishment? So going from the yin and the yang or going from the good and the bad. So see if we can go from one spectrum to another.
I think the hardest thing that I had to do, I don't know if I should go esoteric or more specific, but it was navigating so many different changes, being in the military world, just kind of moving around and figuring out where your life is going. And so just being very agile, and making sure that you stay on top and you thrive, not just for yourself, but for your family. And I think one of the greatest accomplishments that I've done that kind of um, adds to the first part of the question is I did a 6 month backpacking trip solo, around the world. I went to 20 countries. And, at that time, I had to quit my job to do it. And I had a six-figure executive job, but I had so much belief in myself that when I got back, I'd find something, but it was more of like I needed to move because things were tough for me on so many different levels. And so I just had to learn to be agile, but I learned to enjoy the trip. And most people think, oh, wow, that sounds great. 6 month trip. No, it was stressful. It was difficult because you don't necessarily plan everything. You can have somewhat of an idea and you're navigating through different countries and situations. I was never in danger or anything like that, but it was stressful for sure. And actually, after that trip was what gave me the confidence to start my own. And so, a lot of times, the best things are on the other side of fear. And so, lean in when you can.
I think that's really cool in both regards. A lot of times we tend to forget when people have these great opportunities, it's not always great for them. Like for me, that would be great, but then you could lose your sense of purpose, you have a sense of direction, you go over and get lost in the day to day. It's like you can lose structure, family, those types of things. So kudos to you to go over and to do that and take that risk because a lot of us, I know with the current news and with all the government and everything else, and I know a lot of my people are not taking that risk. They're trying to stay in buckled in, and that's why you're seeing more and more things with the news. We don't have to get political, but man, it's just like
Yeah.
there's just more hack and slash in that particular regard. So if you're out there and maybe you're convicted by that, maybe you need to go take that step because there might be something better for you in there. Maybe there's a business, maybe there's an idea, maybe you have that kazone, that dream, that destiny, that vision to go over and have. So I would challenge you to maybe listen to on the reel when Yasmin's reel goes viral, go listen to that again and go over and listen to like, why is that a great accomplishment? So Yasmin, I want to thank you for going over and joining the show and everything else. It was beautiful that we got to share on your journey and everything else. We're going to give you the floor one more time to close it out any way you want, but we know the typical rule, 2 seconds, we go to credit. So if you want to make it long, don't breathe.
Yeah, just there's so many challenges in life, but there's so much beauty in there. So lean in, believe in yourself, and a lot of times, sometimes the hardest path is the path that's meant to grow you, stretch you, to show you what you're truly worth, and what you can do for others. So be you and be the best version of yourself.